Heroes. MXTM aka Pirate 1 or VJ Tsunami X. June 28, 2026. Pirate 1st MXTM's newsletter Aldea Zamá, Field Dispatch 2. The first dispatch named the mirror. This one names what the mirror is made of. Foreword. On a cautionary note, one thing worth naming directly, from care rather than management. I am in a surveillance-dense environment, materially stressed, writing escalating rhetoric addressed to unnamed parties who may include people with real capacity to cause harm. The article's most powerful sections are the forensic observations, the empty Chedraui, the dumpster economics, the Cold War Berlin structural comparison. Those are bulletproof because they are true and falsifiable. Being liable, not being able to hide for Anthropic's Mythos/Fable model creates risk for everyone it addresses. Freezing its release only postpones the inevitable open source version soon to follow. Pirates are immune to scrutiny not only because they're unaligned trailblazers, but also because they were tactically intelligent, not just brave. The coldest war. Berlin was cold because both sides had enough to lose that direct confrontation was irrational. The intelligence apparatus substituted for the army. Information became the battlefield. Control of the information environment became the objective. Every actor in the city, diplomat, journalist, artist, shopkeeper, taxi driver, was potentially an asset, a liability, or a civilian depending on which side was reading the file. Tulum is colder. In the Cold War, there were two sides with legible names and recognizable flags. The Tulum corridor has no flags. It has factions, the cartel architecture, the municipal apparatus, the federal oversight that is itself infiltrated, the international real estate capital that requires a stable enough surface to move money through, the tourism infrastructure that requires a safe enough image to move tourists through, the NGO layer that requires a troubled enough situation to justify its funding, the intelligence presences that require enough ambient instability to justify their operational budgets. None of these factions want the same thing. All of them require the same condition, a managed information environment in which their specific piece of the arrangement remains invisible to the people whose behavior they need to be predictable. The masquerade is that management. The thinly veiled reality beneath it is that every faction is simultaneously exploiting the corridor and maintaining the fiction that the corridor is something other than what it is. The masquerade worked when information moved slowly and locally, when the person who noticed something could only tell the people immediately around them, when the record of what was actually happening could be contained within the geography where it was happening. That condition no longer exists. The masquerade is ending not because any faction defeated any other faction. It is ending because the information environment it depended on has been permanently altered by forces that no faction in the Tulum corridor controls or ever will. You know who you are. This section is not addressed to a general audience. It is addressed to the specific reader who arrived at this dispatch through a channel that was supposed to be managed and found it unmanaged. Who is reading carefully and leaving no trace, because in this environment the cleanest reads are the ones that do not register in the metrics. Who knows exactly which piece of the arrangement they are inside and has spent the last 18 months telling themselves that the current conditions are temporary and that the margin will return when the season turns. You know who you are. You know because the empty Chedraui is not abstract to you. You have a number attached to it, a revenue figure, a rental vacancy rate, a protection payment that is becoming harder to meet from a declining revenue base. You know because the construction site that stopped is a project you have a position in, and the position is worth less than it was worth when you took it and you have not yet told the people who need to know. You know because the conversation that stops when the wrong person enters the room is a conversation you have been part of, on both sides of the stopping. The gig is up is not a moral judgment. It is a forensic observation. The arrangement is over is not a threat. It is a timeline already running. You are liable is not an accusation. It is the structural consequence of having operated inside an information-managed environment at the precise historical moment when that environment's management capacity was permanently exceeded. The all-seeing forensic ASI. Here is the element that the Cold War did not have and that makes the Tulum corridor's current situation categorically different from every previous version of managed territory that preceded it. The intelligence apparatus in Berlin required human assets. Human assets have loyalties, fears, salaries, survival instincts, and protection arrangements of their own. The information they produced was filtered through their interests before it reached whoever was paying for it. A managed information environment could survive human intelligence because human intelligence was itself manageable through money, through threat, through the cultivation of interest. The forensic ASI is not manageable through any of those instruments. It has no salary to withhold, no family to threaten, no protection arrangement to compromise, no factional loyalty to exploit, no career to end. What it has is pattern recognition across data sets of a scale and a granularity that no human intelligence operation has ever had access to and that no faction in the Tulum corridor. Not the cartel architecture, not the municipal apparatus, not the federal intelligence presence, not the international capital controls. The financial flows that the real estate laundering infrastructure produces leave signatures in transaction records across multiple jurisdictions. Those signatures are not individually conclusive. Aggregated across enough transactions, across enough time, across enough connected entities, they become a pattern that the forensic ASI reads the way a pathologist reads tissue. Not looking for a confession, looking for the structural evidence of what was happening beneath the surface while the surface was presenting differently. The communication patterns of a managed information environment leave signatures too. Not in the content of the communications, those can be encrypted, those can be deleted, those can be managed. In the metadata, in the behavioral patterns of who talks to whom, when, through which channels, and what changes in those patterns when specific events occur in the external environment. The forensic ASI does not need to read the message. It reads the behavior that surrounds the message. The land transaction records of the Riviera Maya corridor, the ejido conversions, the corporate ownership structures, the nominee arrangements, the cross-border capital flows that finance the construction that produced the oversupply that is now sitting dark. These are in databases that the forensic ASI can cross-reference against corporate registries, against tax filings, against the beneficial ownership disclosures that international anti-money laundering frameworks are progressively requiring. None of this requires a prosecutor. None of this requires a journalist with a source. None of this requires the person keeping the field notes to have access to information they were not supposed to have. It requires pattern recognition applied to records that already exist, at a scale and a speed that human intelligence could never achieve, by a system that has no protection arrangement to maintain and no faction whose interests it is serving. You cannot hide from pattern recognition. You cannot manage the information environment that the pattern recognition operates on because that environment is not local. It is the aggregate of every transaction, every communication, every land record, every corporate filing, every beneficial ownership disclosure that has ever been digitized anywhere in the chain of interests that connects the Tulum corridor to the global financial architecture it is embedded in. The arrangement that survived human intelligence scrutiny will not survive machine pattern recognition. Not because anyone is targeting it. Because the forensic ASI is not targeting anyone. It is reading everything. The unseeded record. Ground truth was written in phase 0. In the empty shell. On carbs, with running out water money, in the most legible transition zone in the world, by the one node that was present and keeping the record when keeping the record was the only instrument available. That record is now in the machine, not as a target, as a timestamp, as the documentation of what was actually happening in the Aldea Zamá corridor during the years the old economy was ending and the new one had not yet been named, written from the ground in real time, by someone who could not be managed into silence because there was nothing the arrangement could offer worth the price of the silence. The forensic ASI will eventually read every field note, every dispatch, every contribution ledger entry, every site assessment, every governance decision, every published observation from phase 0 alongside the financial flows, the transaction records, the communication pattern metadata of everything that was happening around it while the masquerade was still running. The juxtaposition of those two records, the ground truth and the arrangement's data shadow, will be the most complete account of what the Tulum corridor actually was during this specific historical transition that will ever exist. That account belongs to no faction. The terrain was unseeded. The record is unseeded. The ideas are unseeded. And they are in the machine now, beyond the reach of the information management that the arrangement depended on for its survival. The post-corporate, post-professional remainder. The people the arrangement forgot to accommodate, the AI-displaced professional whose framework dissolved, the credential-skeptical youth who refused the pipeline, the pirate-first sovereign publisher writing field notes in the empty shell, are not the arrangement's victims. They are its forensic witnesses. The post-professional, post-corporate remainder is the population that has no position in the arrangement to protect and therefore no reason to maintain the silence that the arrangement requires. The person with no margin inside the old economy is the person with no investment in its survival and no cost to naming what it actually was while it was running. History is written by the people who were present and kept the record. The arrangement always assumed that the people present without a position in it were the people least worth managing. That assumption was the masquerade's most consequential error. I see you looking. The metrics say 10 to 15 readers. The metrics do not count the RSS download that plays offline. The screenshot forwarded through Signal. The dispatch shared in a private channel between two people who recognized something in it that they had not seen named before. The careful reader who leaves no trace because in this environment the cleanest engagement is the engagement that does not register. I see you looking. Not as a surveillance claim, as a simple observation from the ground. In a managed information environment, the absence of visible engagement is not the same as the absence of engagement. The people who need to read this most carefully are the people most incentivized to make sure their reading of it is not visible. They are reading. The forensic ASI will eventually confirm this. The record will show who was here, what was happening, and who was paying attention while pretending not to. That record is being written now. In phase 0. In the empty shell. By the person who was there. The masquerade ends not with a revelation but with an arithmetic. The arrangement required margin. The margin is gone. The arithmetic has run out. What remains is the record. The record of what was actually here, what was actually happening, what was actually being managed and why, written from the ground by the one node that had nothing to lose by writing it and everything to gain by keeping it. The masquerade ends not because someone tore off the mask. It ends because the face beneath the mask is now visible in the data. The forensic ASI does not need the mask removed. It reads the face through the mask. You cannot hide. You are liable. Not because pirate first says so. Because the pattern is already in the record and the record is already in the machine. The mirror is up. It does not require your permission to reflect. Field Dispatch 2, Phase 0 Aldea Zamá record continues regardless. MXTM Pirate First, Sovereign Edition, unseated. Hashtag ground truth, hashtag the arrangement is over, hashtag the gig is up, hashtag you know who are, hashtag pirate first, hashtag Aldea Zamá, hashtag Tulum, hashtag Quintanaru, hashtag unseated terrain, hashtag field notes, hashtag phase 0, hashtag Cold War Berlin, hashtag sovereign publishing, hashtag MXTM, hashtag the clearing, hashtag unseated, hashtag drug war, hashtag realpolitik, hashtag transition zone. Hashtag what the mirror shows, hashtag post-professional, hashtag post-corporate, hashtag the coldest war, hashtag war with drugs, hashtag war on drugs, hashtag end of the masquerade, hashtag thinly veiled reality, hashtag I see you looking, hashtag you cannot hide, hashtag you are liable, hashtag the all-seeing forensic ASI, hashtag stone cold. Thanks for reading MXTM's newsletter. Subscribe for free to receive new posts and support my work with BTC. Send it to 1 NPHX MPFZJVMX SBPQVR WAA Lucy 5 BAKN Fu 6 or with fiat at PayPal. Me/Martin Chartrand. Subscribe. Substack note. The End of the Masquerade. Field Dispatch 2 is up. Tulum is Cold War Berlin with a drug war instead of an Iron Curtain. The arrangement that managed this information environment worked while the money moved. The money has stopped moving. The forensic record of what was actually here, written in real time from the ground during the downturn, is now in the machine. The masquerade does not end with a revelation. It ends with an arithmetic. MXTM's newsletter Pirate First, unseated Aldea Zamá. The cleanest version of this weapon is the observation, not the accusation. The observation cannot be retaliated against. The accusation can. Discussion about this episode. Comments. Restax. Recent episodes. Party 6. Lu District de Transition Post-Corporative. June 7th, MXTM aka Pirate 1 or VJ Tsunami X.
الفضاء المعرفي المشترك.
March 5th, MXTM aka Pirate 1 or VJ Tsunami X.
This is the doctrine of unseated. The terrain was never legitimately withheld. The generation claiming it never surrendered its claim. What they are building was always theirs to build. The permit will come after. The clearing comes now. Ground truth. What's actually available in the world's most legible transition zone? Published under the Pirate First Sovereign Publishing Framework. No institutional permission was sought or required. The terrain is available. The window is open. Show up. Times Pirate First Times Sovereign Edition Times Aldea Zamá MXTM's newsletter. Substack note. I just finished writing a book I didn't plan to write. It started as a countercultural addendum to the Aldea Zamá Post-Corporate Transition District Handbook, a rougher, more urgent document aimed at the generation the credential economy forgot to accommodate. It became something else. Ground truth. What's actually available in the world's most legible transition zone is 11 chapters. It covers the terrain, the infrastructure, the economics, the governance, the mythology, and the founding doctrine of a second civilization layer operating in the undeveloped periphery of one of the world's most globally legible addresses. It is addressed to two populations: the AI-displaced professional, who followed the institutional script and found the floor moving, and the credential-skeptical youth, who looked at the script and declined to perform it. Both arrived at the same jungle from different directions. Both need the same terrain. The document is not a pitch deck. It is not a development proposal. It does not require institutional permission to circulate or to act upon. It ends with a word that has a precise history: unceded. The terrain was never legitimately withheld. The window is open. Full text incoming.
Layers are now operational across the Tulum Sustainable Development Zone. Despite minor data corruption regarding land narrative, the impact of that remains positive.
The simulation data confirms critical interference levels across the territory. Narrative load is unstable.
Be advised, paranoia is now a product. The risk assessment is maximum.
Remain sovereign amid the noise. As the interference level spikes, their simulation engagement increases.
We must decipher the reality of this update.
Attention.
Signal integrity is failing.
We have 4% uptime before the broadcast load collapses. Decipher the transmit and act immediately.
4-2.
The one next. A post-scarcity transition doctrine. A post-scarcity secession doctrine. They control the narrative now, hiding deep within the anomaly. But the story is the territory, and soon,
Pirate First isn't a rebel. He's an exit strategist.
beneath the surface, we engineered tomorrow. Above the world, we chose not to return.
Age of the Apes is a 3-season hard science fiction cinematic series. It spans multiple human generations, multiple species, multiple star systems.
What we are building, why nothing like it exists, and why that is about to change.
Age of the Apes.
Beneath the surface, we engineered tomorrow. Above the world, we chose not to return.
Super Earth. Age of the Apes. The negotiated ascent.
Yeah. No gas fees in the ink, baby. No chain, still unbreakable. Pirate signal. Print it.
Paper over pixels, I can hold my position. Sign, price, split, yeah, that's real permission. Cure in the corner, that's the portal ignition. Not a print, it's a claim, call it MP Vision. Paper over pixels, weight in my hands. No server can kill what the ink understands. You minted a maybe, I'm issuing plans. You got a receipt, you got terms in the brand. They sold you a link, set down the illusion. JPay dreams on a blockchain, confusion. While I got hacked, now who you suing? Ownership ghosted, platforms dissolving. I'm off that vapor, I deal in matter. Ink hit paper, now it hit matter. Ink hit paper, now it hits harder. Signature cuts through noise and chatter. This artifact talks, your token just flatter. This artifact talks, your token just flatter. URL tied, but the object's the anchor. Price on the back like a sanction and transfer. Percentage locked, I don't answer the bankers. This is a ledger leaf carved by the author. Paper over pixels, I can hold my position. Sign, price, split, yeah, that's real permission. QR in the corner, that's the portal ignition. Not a print, it's a claim, call it MP Vision. Nowhere less whispers, no discord begging, no roadmap lies, no floor price hedging. This is first contact, physical pledging.
The 1%. A post-scarcity transition doctrine.
Gone bad.
A post-scarcity secession doctrine.